Thank you. With that, let's go ahead and get started. We will go ahead and call City Council business meeting to order. This is Thursday, July 15th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Reba.
Here.
Cool.
Here.
Livingston.
Here.
Mayor Tom Phillips.
I am here as well. We have a quorum, so we will move on. So for those on the Zoom meeting, you'll notice that your microphones are muted. If you want to speak to an agenda item, go ahead and unmute your mic and speak up during public comment. You can also let us know you have some input by raising your Zoom hand or by flagging us in the chat box. We'll then recognize you for public comment. Also, don't forget to mute your microphone after you've made your comments. You'll also notice that you needed to be allowed into the Zoom meeting tonight. If you are disruptive, we'll give you a warning to ask you to stop. If you're still disruptive, we'll remove you from this meeting and you will not be allowed back in. This is what would happen with a full in-person meeting, so this really isn't a change to any of our procedures. We're streaming this meeting through YouTube. We believe YouTube provides the ability for a much broader audience to view our meetings. There is a time delay on the YouTube meeting, so we will not respond to questions that may be texted to people in council chambers. If you'd like to ask questions during the meeting, please either attend in person or attend via the Zoom meeting. And just as a reminder, we are recording this meeting. So with that said, next on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. Would anybody like to move any of the consent agenda items to the regular agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Reba, second by Livingston. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion carries. Item 4 is welcome of guests and public comment. We'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. This is for non-agenda items. We'll give you a 3-minute time limit. Realize we can't take action on these tonight since they aren't on the agenda. Also, if you'd like to comment on any item in the consent agenda, now would be the time. So anybody want to talk to council? Would you come on up, state your name and address, and you got 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Lorraine Perkins. I live at 706 Kittleman Circle. I'm nervous that I'm 80. My husband, Ron Perkins, and I, along with my family, moved to Norwalk in 1965 when the city's population was under 1,000 people. That was 56 years ago. I am speaking to you in regards about the fireworks over the 4th of July. My family has enjoyed the city fireworks over the many years and have only missed a handful until this year. Living on Kittleman Circle since 2002, we have chosen to watch the city fireworks from our circle. My daughter, Roxy, her pregnant daughter, and her grandson all came out from Des Moines to enjoy the city fireworks. We 3 adults planted our chairs on a usual yearly spot, which is the north side of the circle facing south, right beside the mailboxes. Darkness had already approached and we watched the neighbors shooting off some cute little fireworks. But a few houses north of the circle, a large group of people shooting fireworks in the street and small children were running around the street. Each time they shot loud boomers, I don't know what they're called, and then the boom up the top, and they were very dangerous with them. We 3 adults thought they were getting more closer and inconsiderate to us. We couldn't visit and began to feel in danger. Danger and soot became too much. So my family left for Des Moines without watching the city fireworks. I'm sorry as I don't have a solution for disrupting people, but knowing what some fireworks do to older people, sleeping children, animals, sleeping stroke survivors like my husband, and the military folks who have serve in their serve their world, it would make a lot of people think a little more highly if the city would take these people in consideration when making this decision. On Sunday, the 4th, I went out on the circle to see if anyone cleaned up their garbage, only to find a fine gentleman up the street sweeping the debris from the front of his house. I personally enjoyed the city fireworks in previous years when they wasn't malicious hurts and words both in person and on Facebook. When I stated some of these possible dangers on Facebook, someone in administration took my post down. I would like a safe city fireworks again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we will move on. I'm going to go down there though for a presentation. We have an awards presentation tonight. Let me see. All right. So each year, we identify a member of our city team and award them with the Warrior of the Year Award. It's just as it sounds, an award to someone that has met adversity yet prevailed in bringing quality service and dedication to our citizens and businesses. This past year created plenty of adversity for our city. This is what made it such a tough decision. Every department and every employee pulled together, adapted, and continued to make Norwalk a place where people want to live and work. This past year, the Norwalk Parks Department, not just a single person, but the whole department, stood out as a shining star as they confronted obstacles with COVID. They changed their entire business operations. They adapted cleaning regimens, they modified programming, they learned new technology, adapted schedules, fielded hundreds of calls from people with opinions about what safety really means about COVID. They set aside personal opinions and recognized the importance of keeping people healthy, even when it meant residents had to stay home. On top of all that, this group of employees are working through the growth of our park system at a rate that has never been seen before in Norwalk. We now have a 177-acre park, a connection to the Great Western Trail, and several new parks. Oh, and a ton of work towards a new field house. So I could go on and on about their dedicated service, but I'll stop here and say, thank you, Robin. Thank you to your team for your amazing team and for your work this past year. So if Robin, you did the first one, I think.
Nice.
Come on up. So this says Warrior of the Year 2020, awarded to Parks and Rec Department, in appreciation for your dedication and devotion to the city and people of Norwalk.
Thank you.
Since this is not only a department award, but an individual award as well, because all you guys worked hard. There's one for Sarah. I'll give it to you. I'll give you the box. This was yours. Let's see. There's gotta be one for you guys are here, right? Who's the first one? Dakota Springer. Come on up. Thank you. All right, Adam Fiber. And Shanisa Lane.
Thank you. Good job, guys.
Thank you. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Item 6 is consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have approved the July 1st, 2021 minutes of the regular city council meeting. We have expenditures, tax abatements, resolution appointing Jason Brown to the Norwalk Planning and Zoning Commission to fill a vacancy. We have a resolution authorizing the city of Norwalk, Iowa to accept Iowa Department of Transportation's Iowa Clean Air Attainment Program, ICAAP, federal aid swap funds for the partial funding of Iowa 28 Traffic Signal System Improvements Project. We have a resolution accepting the certificate of completion for the West North Avenue Rehabilitation HMA Resurfacing Phase 2 project and partial pay estimate number 1 to Grimes Asphalt and Paving Corporation. We have a resolution to approve Elder Corporation to proceed with street pavement removal, crushing, and haul away of unusable material. We have a resolution approving a repair to the public safety building. We have a resolution approving the disposal of miscellaneous items. We have street closure application for Elizabeth Holland Park, grand opening color run, July 22nd, 2021, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We have a resolution appointing Nicole McLaughlin to the Norwalk Board of Adjustments to fill a vacancy, and monthly reports. Can I get a motion?
I have a comment for you.
Sure.
So with respect to the expenditures, just for purposes of the record, I understand we have taken to not only voting by way of consent agenda, but also signing those. I don't see the point. If we approve it in a consent agenda, and if I should have asked to have this removed, I apologize. If we approve it in a consent agenda and we're all here, but for some reason somebody doesn't sign it, that's inconsistent, isn't it? And then how is it reconciled in the record that I didn't sign it, so apparently on paper I didn't approve it, but I approved it in the consent? I just think we do one or the other. I don't care how we do it, but I think we do one or the other.
So
We don't necessarily have to debate it. We can, but I'm just sharing my comments.
we'll just ask for clarification. Is there, what's the reasoning behind the signing?
We created a new report to hopefully make the expenditures easier to understand, with some explanation of what fund they were coming out of and what department. I checked with some other communities, they have their council sign it. And actually, when I pulled the report from our software company, the signature lines were already there.
Okay.
Happy to not have them sign it though.
So do those other cities also approve the expenditures during their council meetings?
They do. It's not an audit requirement. It was just something we thought could be just another check and balance, but it doesn't have to be anything we absolutely have to do.
Okay. What's everybody think? I'm curious. We should probably move on, but I just want to know.
I think leaving the expenditures on here and doing it via council versus signature.
Yeah.
I think it's redundant doing both, so
I
doing
agree.
it this way is fine.
I'd agree if there wasn't some legal requirement for it, because
Alright.
it's already in the record.
So there you go.
But I appreciate you guys trying to make sure we're all good with everything, especially given some other discussions we've had. So thank you.
Thoroughness. It's good.
All right, thanks for bringing that up. So motion by Reva, second by Livingston. Any further discussion?
I didn't second it, but I will.
Oh, I thought you did. That was a different motion, wasn't it?
But consider I'm done.
We're moving now.
You'll go with that?
Me too.
I'll call it. I said, it was just a little, it was a moment of clairvoyance. All right.
Yes.
Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba, Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, motion carries. Let's move on. Item 7, old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. Item A is a resolution approving statement of work for secure information and event management, SEIM, with Pro Circular via the partnership with Norwalk Community School District. So we had a proposal from SIEM in partnership with the school district for SIEM to work on cybersecurity for the city. The actual statement of work came in differently than the proposal, so we're bringing the statement of work to council for approval. I'll let you take it from here.
This is repetitive, but I realize that they didn't actually send us the formal contract until after council had taken action on the proposal. Same end result, I just checking a box, really just making sure you came back and actually saw the contract. So nothing different. Any questions? This is for
Because I
the,
was trying to compare one to the other, I frankly gave up. I didn't call you earlier, I'm sorry. So Jim, are you okay? with the
I am.
project?
I am okay with it. I read through it.
Okay, any public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
Motion.
I already got a motion. I got a second.
Second.
Motion by Lester, second by Reba. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. So item B is a resolution approving the preliminary plat of Valley View. So Valley View is the plat to the land west of Immaculate Sports Complex. And they're the ones who cleared the tree line, which included trees that the city of Norwalk owned. So Luke Paris was asked to speak at Fellowship Church regarding our comprehensive plan update. So Luke Nelson, I understand, Luke updated you on the project. I didn't see tree replacement plan in the original packet. I do notice now, and you got it up on the screen, that there is some tree plans there. I also understand the delay with this information was due to a delay on part of the developer's engineer. You got anything else?
I just really want to field questions. I know that was one of the key concerns and with the trees and what happened there. At our department head meeting on Wednesday, I brought that up to Luke Paris. Want to make sure we get that in there. He followed up with the developers. They did send that to us and Lindsay was able to get that out to you. There's probably other questions about the development and I'll do my best to field those. I did get an update from Elliot and Luke Paris today. Just felt it was important for him to be able to attend that Fellowship Church event.
So my number one concern is the park ground, because they're required to have 3 point, exactly, and they're giving us 2.5, because they're trying to include the drainage detention area. And when we've discussed these, we've said no more. We weren't going to do that.
Right.
So there's not enough park ground being given to us. So just so you know where I'm at on this one at this point. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I also had a concern about the park ground and the park field. And I just had a question overall. I'm trying to remember when we discussed this in the abstract when they first came to us. We talked about the sewers and extensions on sewers to be able to reach up through there. How does this impact? So do we have a sewer system up through there, or will we be needing to add some? Do you remember?
Let me see if I can bring up an aerial photo real quick.
Does that flow into the one that goes by Michael Foods and Windsor Windows?
Seemed like we were discussing coming off the end of that one that was by Michael Foods.
Yeah.
Down below.
I think you're right.
So the main location of where we're anticipating an expansion is through this channel here. And the Valley View is on this 40.
Okay.
So will it impact it? I do believe that this area where it would run right at that southwest corner would not be impacted by this development of where, and Tony Belizzi is on here. Tony, you might even be able to add to that. Can you see the screen of what I marked there?
Yes, I can see it.
Did I explain that accurately?
Yeah, and I'm not sure exactly what the question was in terms of sewer service. So all of this drains to the south to our sewer that, as the mayor indicated, that extends along Delaware Street that serves Windsor Windows and Michael Foods. So that extends, that sewer along Delaware Street extends to the west to the bottom of that yellow line and then up to the southwest corner of this development currently. So that's in place right now, and that's the sewer that serves this area. And that sewer is designed with the capacity to serve this entire development.
Okay, thank you. I guess my last comment is I'm on the parkland. I'm not comfortable with what they've got drawn out here.
Okay. Based on,
But, well, first, it's the crappiest land they got, right? And they're gonna count a drainage area that we can't use as part of their park dedication land. And it just doesn't seem right to me. It seems like we're shortchanging the residents of the region. That's my opinion. So,
Mhm.
I can address that a little bit. Brad Cooper, Cooper Crawford Associates. I was surprised that we didn't meet it. I thought we were actually giving more acreage until I saw this report. And I didn't realize they'd pulled that detention area outlot out of the park ground. We've got some extra deep lots along the west side of the park, so we can get to that number that you need for the park ground. And part of the reason for the grading that I think is benefiting the park as well as this plat is that park ground is a slope right now. When we're done with it, it's going to be a lot more usable ground. So it's not really, there's none of the drainage way that will be on that park ground. I had this in front of you folks, I believe it was in 2019 when we were looking at a lot of different concepts. It seems like this project's kind of went on forever, but this is the concept that I felt everybody liked the most. So we could have I remember back then a trail system up through here was important. This area was identified for a trail system that could hook into another trail system. So this park ground allows for that as well as a lot of other things. But I apologize for that park ground not being the size it should be. But those lots along the west side that you're seeing right there, oh man.
got the double line.
Like lots 93 through 98 is what I'm talking about. Those are extra deep lots, as you can see. So we could move that park line over to accommodate that extra acreage.
I would still question whether that's adequate for our park needs. Because it's the crappiest
Right.
piece out there. I mean, it is the worst piece of ground on that 40 acres.
you must be gonna move a lot of dirt.
Well, we are going to move a lot of dirt. The thing is there's not a flat piece of area on this entire piece. I mean, it's a pretty major, significant
But
area.
You guys took the drainage ditch and said, we're gonna give that to the city for the park because it's the crappiest piece and we can't develop it into houses. Because if we put houses there, we're gonna have to put in some sort of underground sewer system to service that. I mean, that's the thought process.
The drainage is all on our lots. We've got an overland flow easement on our land, on our lots. It's not on the city park. We are filling it all and it's required that we, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we've got to have a 5% maximum slope.
But even filling it in, you can tell me that it's gonna flow, the water's gonna flow over here, but Mother Nature doesn't care what we say. It's gonna flow wherever it wants to flow, and it flows there today.
Well, we've taken a lot of the slope out of it during this process, or we will be taking a lot of the slope out of it. Quite frankly, you could do anything you wanted to in there if you wanted to. I don't know what the city would have planned for this area except a usable walking path, but you can make flat areas and if there's some areas that need to be identified as being flat, we can certainly put that in our grading plan.
See, one of the things that we've been trying to do that we hope to be able to do, and that's to have neighborhood parks. And I don't know if you're familiar with that area, just kind of south of Catholic Church there, where you put that new park in. It has a lot of playground equipment, things that young families really use that a lot. And I think they really appreciate having that. And our goal is to be able to have locations where we can develop those kinds of things for each neighborhood. you know,
I'd say this is not much different than that. That has a pretty decent slope on it all the way down there. I've been in that park quite a few times.
yeah, and it has a water retention area on the end that we had to work around. And we came by it about the same way.
I mean, you could do the same thing with this piece of ground.
But the problem is you're presenting a preliminary plat that doesn't do that today.
What do you mean it doesn't do that today?
You're giving us 2.5 acres of park ground. I mean, you're not giving us the park ground we need in the preliminary plat. So unless you're gonna change the preliminary plat. to
No,
give
we're
us what
just,
we
we're
need.
just slightly different in acreage. Our required amount is 3.36. We're giving 2.91, but we will get to the 3.36. If you,
But there's a difference between getting it and giving it. And it's not being given in the preliminary plat.
well, I would make your motion if you approve it to contingent on us ceding that much land to the city. And we would get that by taking off of those west lots.
That's not our job to tell you that you have to give us that. You should have given it to us before tonight, so.
Well, I apologize for that because I didn't even know about that outlet on the bottom. Unfortunately, I haven't been working directly with the project that much since the original concept phase, but
Do you know what happened with the trees and why trees were removed? that-
they wanted to start grading this spring. I actually thought this thing had already been approved by city council. I mean, we were planning and zoning in February. But,
Why did they take out trees that were on city property?
well,
They were
that's,
Driving their vehicles.
it
on
was the
city
fence
property.
line trees.
It doesn't matter. It was
Oh, I
city
agree.
trees.
I was surprised. I did not even know
I keep
about it.
hearing excuses. It was just a mulberry tree. It was just 10 trees. It was just, it doesn't matter. We're asking why.
Mhm. I wasn't involved in that, to tell you the truth, but not trying to pass the buck, but I was surprised when I saw the trees out of there too, when Elliot called me about the issue.
And so the trees now that are included in this, do you know, does it match the number of trees that were removed? I'm just asking these questions because I don't know the answer.
I couldn't tell you. I know there were fence line trees in there. I remember driving that project several times.
And then, as trees often do, if these trees are planted, I'm assuming they're gonna be planted as relatively young trees. And if they don't take, then whose responsibility does it become to replace them? Ours?
I would think we would have a certain time frame where we would have to ensure that they're alive. Usually it's a year.
Thanks.
I mean, that entire area, I don't know if you can picture it from the grading plan, but that whole area is gonna be lowered about 5 to 6 feet.
I knew that was part of the discussion before, was that there was gonna be some significant leveling, in a very loose term, but modification to the grade.
Jackie, we gave them the number of 10 trees. It was an estimate that we had from looking at, Google Maps and seeing what was there from what we could best tell. And just from our guys being out there numerous times. We didn't have a tree inventory of that, unfortunately. So we gave them the amount. We also gave them the types of trees that we would like them to plant in that area. One thing I have not done, which I think Kevin has emailed me, is I'll talk to him about insurance, like as far as if the trees die within a year, are they going to replace? And then also watering those in and whose responsibility that will be. But I'll make sure that Kevin and I work through that and we get an agreement.
Thanks.
And 10 mature trees are very different than 10 little trees. So I would tell you that 10 little trees isn't enough to replace the 10 mature trees.
Sure.
And again, the preliminary plat, you're saying we'll give it to you, but it's not anywhere written. So, I mean, if you're gonna give it to us, but don't say it to my face and then 5 years down the road, oh, I didn't agree to that, because that's what happened to the city in the past and we haven't gotten things.
Sure. No, we'll make sure Robin gets a chance to review the plans and approves whatever caliber of trees we put in. We've worked on the park out in Cumming where the home show's at, and those are a nice type of tree, which I could see these being. And they have a 1-year maintenance agreement through Ted Lair on those.
So, okay, so I got a question for you then. Indication in the report is this will add to our greenways. And I agree to that, but I agree with that. But where are the trails that are actually going to get you to the park?
Well, we were discussing it, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, whenever it was. I mean, we kind of identified that one corridor where the sanitary sewer runs, since it's all cleared out nicely now. And that being like a major trail, I believe is what our discussion was. And then this could be a trail that would lead the neighbors down into that trail.
Okay.
I mean, if that's what you want to use the park for, it's.
But do you have a greenway type trail along the streets at all? I see like small sidewalks. I don't see bike trailish type.
No, we just have the
trail in there
5
at
foot
all.
sidewalks. And we're responsible for putting the 5 foot sidewalks in front of the park street sections.
Mayor, are you talking about, there's currently a trail that terminates, Robin, correct me if I'm wrong, but just north of Mackinac on Orchard Hills Drive?
Right.
Yes.
And are you talking about a trail that would get from that point, kind of like what's sketched out in yellow, essentially, not down the middle of the road? I'm not good at sketching, but essentially from that line over.
Yeah.
You bring up the
Or
colorful
all the way-
map,
all the way to the end.
bring up the colorful map that's in the packet. Right, colorful, because that's how I identify things. If you just scroll a page or two
Yes.
or 5. Right, that has,
The green line.
the green line is the existing trail.
So I think the green line needs to go through that development.
Is that a trail that's in front of houses?
Yeah.
It appears like it is. How wide is that trail? Does anybody know?
I think it's
It's at least an 8-foot
10
trail.
or 8.
Yeah, it's probably an 8-foot trail. I think the ones within city are 8 foot. 10 is the Great Western Trail where
Okay.
it leads you, but I don't know. I'd have to defer that to Paris, but I think they're 8-foot sections.
Jim, do you remember in our subdivision regulations, isn't that something that we've worked with developers on where the city participates?
Yeah, we have done that.
They put in the 5 and we
Well, like-
pay
Right, so
Yeah,
it's
for
not
three.
necessarily
we-
saying, hey, you have to cover that cost. I think that was something the city actually.
The city has
But right
participated in the
now-
widening of it.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's right, the space for it is something that needs to be addressed.
We could certainly do that.
I guess I'd feel more comfortable voting for this if we had a diagram in front of us, a representation of what the park would actually look like and that trail and anything else delineated in here. So we really know what we're getting. We're not stipulating to something after the fact, And no offense, it's just that we've done a lot of business with different people. Sometimes things get forgotten or overlooked, and then we come back later and wish we had insisted on it.
Very true.
Well, I was as surprised as you were on the parkland. I didn't realize that outlet had been taken
I
out of there.
believe you. I don't think you'd have come in here if you'd have.
But in terms of the overall look, I mean, if the Parks Department has some ideas of what they'd like it to look like, besides just a slow piece of ground, we'd certainly
I guess
incorporate
if,
that.
in my opinion, I'm not speaking for everybody else, they've got their own opinions. But in my opinion, I would like to see you be able to visit with city staff and be able to come up with a recommendation for us, a happy resolution. I mean, I'd like to vote for the housing addition. I'd like to be able to approve it. But I think I need to have something tangible, like David's talking about, to know what it is I'm voting on.
I don't think that's necessarily a fast process. I mean, that's something we could do during the construction drawing phase for the park where we grade that. I mean, if they've got some, like they have a parking lot proposed, like the park you mentioned by the church.
Uh-huh.
We could incorporate that in our grading plan as we're doing our construction plans and
I
that's,
tell you that the grading is the biggest thing because it's a cap of 5% grade. So that means the whole park's going to be a 5% grade. That's what I'm hearing you say.
well, you
You
can
may
make,
tell me there's going to be flat areas, but that doesn't mean if the grading, if it's capped at 5%, it's going to be a hill the whole time.
but if we know that's what you want, if you want, say, a bathroom and parking lot area up here by the street, and then a couple of areas that are a little bit more steep, you got to have a little
Put
give
it
and
in
take
the
to make
agreement. Don't tell me you're going to do it. put it in writing and put it in the preliminary agreement, so.
Well, I certainly stand here today and you can put it in the minutes that we will accommodate the parks department with that, if that's something they want. But there is no flat area on this whole site. I mean, it's,
Does it make a difference that in our city code, it actually specifies that 75% of the parkland has to be open space and what the grading is 1.5% to 5%. I mean, that's all spelled out. So if it's in our code and they give us the ground, how much more, how much more do we need to specify in a preliminary plat
The
versus?
adequate amount of ground. I don't know, this one wasn't gonna have a park to begin with, so the last time you were here, there wasn't going to be a park. The parkland dedication piece was gonna come across and be done on Mackinac. You guys were gonna help grade a parking lot.
and we
That's
still
that-
are now. We're doing that, plus we're giving the ground.
But that's not in here at all. And from what I've been told is that's gone away and it's just giving us the park ground now.
No, we're actually grading on we're grading on the parks ground there. We're still grading that area down. It's shown in the grading plan.
And that's part of my issue is I don't know that that's what I want. I don't know that I want you grading on the park ground today.
Well, I think the
If you're not
original,
going to grade it to the point that it's ready for a parking lot, then I don't want you grading on the park ground.
yeah, that's what we're doing though. We're grading it.
And that's what I'm saying is I don't want you doing that. There's a point where I'm sitting here saying, I don't think what's being presented and what's been presented before are even matching. And I would tell you that grading onto the park ground today is not something I necessarily agree with.
Well, the original PUD, when that was brought in by a different engineering firm, you know, they did have, I believe that was going to be the deal. I mean, it's probably $100,000+ worth of grading in the park ground. And that was going to take place of their park ground. When we brought in our 3 or 4 different scenarios and we put them in front of you to see which ones you'd like, we felt this was the one you liked the most. But in grading the whole site, we still felt it was beneficial for the park ground that we're showing grading on. And it also helps our future park ground and the transition of our lots to allow us.
It helps your lots to grade on.
Oh, it's beneficial to both. It's beneficial to the
Which is one of
project
the
too.
reasons I'm telling you today, I don't know that this fits what I envision needs to be out there.
I mean, it's gonna be, you won't have the big mound between Mackinac and this area.
I mean, better transition.
A lot better transition.
If we, right, this is a resolution, right? And so we could write in the resolution before it's signed that it's approved on the condition that the parkland dedication is sufficient and there is sufficient room for the state to participate, or the city, sorry, to participate in an 8-foot sidewalk to the extent of 3 feet. I mean, we could physically write that, because to David's point, when we have these discussions and there's not something in writing documenting, then, you know, I don't ever remember what meeting it was to go back and listen to the minutes to find out when it was said. So if it's written in the document, for me, that's easier and a way for us to document what we said, what the agreement was, what the resolution was passed with what caveat.
And I'm fine adding something in there that where we sit down with the Parks Department and determine if there's some areas where we could grade it differently than just the standard 5% grade. If there's some areas where they envision some improvements, we can certainly do that and make that part of your resolution as well.
As far as the grading, Stephanie did read the ordinance, and that's kind of what we can require.
Right.
If our ordinance says 1 to 5, we can't have 0 all the way across.
No, I understand.
Okay, yeah.
No, I'm just saying that it says 1 to 5, so we're gonna get 5 from here to here. We're gonna get 5 the whole way, because that's what we're gonna get. I mean, I'm just going off of what we've gotten from other developers. It's nothing to do with you, just so you know. But if it says this, that's what we're gonna get. And I I'm tired of it. I'm just tired of not getting what we're promised and
You know,
told.
what you could
all the
do
way
is
through.
have those subject twos that Jackie was talking about. Also, we could put it subject to final approval of grading plan for the park. So we have that on our to-do list, that the final park has to be graded. That can be brought back to the council to take a look at it, and make sure it's all approved, and let our parks look at it, make sure it's okay.
I would just say that I think there's too many subject twos tonight. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I just think there's so many this, and this. I think that's the problem I'm having with it is this. I feel like we're changing the agreement enough, the preliminary plat enough that I don't know that I'm comfortable even with the stipulations in
Yeah,
there.
I
So
hear what you're saying.
Question.
I am comfortable. For me, there's two things that I want, that I think we can adequately incorporate, that Brad has said they will do.
They are in a hurry to start doing phase one. And phase one does not necessarily grade the parkland, but it puts in the north right road street that goes all the way across the 40 and then goes all the way down the east side of the property. And we have basically approved construction plans for that first phase, and they would like to start on it. I'm more than happy to have those stipulations put in here. I mean, that we have an acceptable grading plan for the Parks Department, and that we have a bare minimum of the 3.43 acres of usable park space.
So question for council, do you want to pursue the changed property line where the fence was?
I don't
Say what?
understand
they
what you're
took, so the
asking.
fence line, there was a
Fence was
fence
out.
line they
Hold on,
took
hold
out.
on.
Yeah.
The fence line denotes the property line,
Uh-huh.
and it was outside of what Mackinac normally would, or would have been platted. So do you want to, does council want to, because the fence established a new property line, do you want that to be the property line, or do you want it to go back to the old property line?
I think
So,
what,
so squatters' rights kind of.
yeah, I think what he's talking about, and I know what he's talking about, is that, you know, the fence over the years was the property line. Okay, we get new accurate measurements coming in, and sometimes that line doesn't match up with the fence line.
Right.
The law is, if this fence has been the agreed to line forever,
Right.
that's the line. And even though somebody came in with a new measurement and says, hey, the actual line's 5 feet this way or 3 feet that way, you know, the fence basically is a boundary by acquiescence.
And so,
And type things. And apparently, I guess I've never heard that, whether I don't know if this is the case, but apparently it is that the fence line is different than the measured line. Is that
right, so-
accurate?
So Cooper Crawford has taken the ground where the original, where the measured line is that the issue? Which is different than the fence line. And how many feet are we talking about?
That's what I'm asking. Do you want to pursue?
That's why it's
that,
only
to see-
10
to see
trees
how
and
much
not
it
more.
is.
That's
Okay.
also why it was only 10 trees and not more, is because those 10 trees were on the measured part.
Okay,
not on
I
the
get,
fence part.
I understand.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to get the information, not debate it yet.
You know, and this isn't a common problem. This is a problem with every
Fences are
development.
not straight.
So I want
Anywhere.
to make sure we're not just saying Cooper Crawford did this because.
No, and
No,
I
no,
don't.
no.
right,
Brad's
yeah.
just the unfortunate one that's here
Yeah,
to
no,
talk.
and I'm not, I
Right.
didn't mean it like that.
Sure, I know that. I know
I'm
that.
just-
I just want to make
Yeah.
sure this is a quite common problem, and I see it in most subdivisions that it doesn't always.
Whoever put
exactly
the
match
fence
up.
in years and years ago.
Right.
Years and years and years and years ago.
What do we think? Do we think it's a lot of property, or do we think it's not? I mean, to me, right, if it's a couple feet, I don't really care. If it's 20, that I care more. I mean, I don't,
Is it material?
It
Yeah.
really couldn't have been a big deal.
yeah.
It
so-
couldn't have been a big deal. I mean, it might have been like Timberview, for instance, the neighbor to the east of Timberview. if you look at his fence and you look at where the property lines on a lot of those properties are on his side of the fence. But then if you look at his fence, it does this. So it's like, you know, you got to set a line, but it's a like weekly deal for us.
Robin, how do you feel about it? Or do you feel anything about it?
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of with you. If it's 20 feet, I mean, that is kind of a difference. But if it's just a couple feet, then
And we don't have any idea.
I don't,
We found all the property corners from looking at the plat here, so.
so how many feet is it? Can you tell?
Wish my eyes were better. It's got to be really close. I mean, you couldn't be talking 2 or 3 feet maybe.
Oh, the
I
dotted
mean, if the
lines.
parks, if the parks area has been operating all these years with the understanding that it was at the fence, I would just go with the fence.
Yeah, I'm fine with not worrying about it.
Okay,
That's my opinion.
I just wanted to bring it up.
Thank you.
When I moved in.
Not knowing if it's 3 feet or 10 feet, and it could be 10 feet in one spot and 3 feet in the other.
Right.
That's another issue we probably should know.
I think Veenstra and Kim actually set these lot corners because they did a survey out there prior to putting the water main in that they obtained their easement from. So we're showing them as found corners, so.
I'm fine. I'm willing to go forward with it.
Huh?
I'm fine with the fence thing. Fence line.
But okay, so
Using.
what we're saying is that, okay, so where the
Fence is
fence line was is 5,
So we don't.
is X number of feet. Farther into, adds X number of feet to Mackinac.
So the city was taking more property than we apparently were entitled to, but because we've owned it for so long, that's become the new. We're losing that now. That's what the issue is, that with this development, we would be losing that.
I think we're thinking that the measured lines, right now, what you're seeing is the measured line, not the old fence line.
Right.
Because that's the measured line where the current modern measurement says is the line. Now the fence line was probably a little bit to the west of there. Now, my unexpert view of it, when it was discussed 2 meetings ago, I drove back down there and looked at it when it was freshly cut, just to see. And there were some lines there, and it was, you know, it was a couple feet. I don't think it was 20 feet. I don't know that for sure, though.
You know, when I moved here, I put up a privacy fence. Before I did, obviously I had, you know, the boundaries delineated. But my neighbor had part of his garden over my property line. And a nice enough guy, he just assumed that was part of his backyard. So my privacy fence sits 2 feet from my property line. I did that so I could have peace with my neighbor. You know, he wasn't being mean. It was a mistake. So, you know, I guess one way or the other, 2 feet isn't that important to me. I agree with Jackie. Shouldn't be that important to them either. But, you know, I guess I'm willing to give them.
So we
I'll
could
stay.
make a motion to, and I could make a motion with the caveats, and or David could make a motion to table. Right? If I make a motion with caveats and it fails, then,
They have to start over with the
Right.
preliminary plat process.
so I guess I'm gauging what the rest of the council.
I'm fine with caveats, because to me, I mean,
I
this
just
is
want
a
to make sure we get
preliminary
them all
plat.
because.
I think if you want
We
the,
have an opportunity when the final plat comes through to really hold their feet to the fire. In preliminary plat, we have things, and I am, don't mistake me, I'm all about parks and make sure,
Okay.
make sure it's right. And, you know, I want to see that trail come down. So just or the developer's information, they'll know what we're keyed in on.
I'm totally fine with
Trails
that.
are we talking about, because in the write-up of the preliminary plat, it says that this is not part of the trails. That's why I'm asking.
We just talked about. the
I know we
trail
just
that comes
talked
down
about it, but
Dave.
his comment, his comment was not that they're gonna put it in. His comment was that we can do what we want with it.
Okay,
Let me finish.
I got you.
Whatever motion Jackie would like to make, or whoever makes, about the trail that comes down in Orchard Hills, to make a motion that that needs to connect through the development, probably through an 8-foot trail. The city has the, ability is the wrong word, a program where we fund that extra 3 feet. So that's not on the developers, but we want to see that come through the development. So it needs to be on that plat. There needs to be understanding that we're expecting that, and understanding that the parks will be graded to our satisfaction, and that we have acceptable land for that park. I mean,
That's a
I
good
don't have,
synopsis.
yeah, I don't have any issue with the house layouts. I mean, I do want the parkland that the formula says you have to get. I like your suggestion about making those lots less steep.
I would suggest, unless there's precedence for having the trail on the north side of the road, that maybe we put it on the south side of the road, just because there's a lot more side.
Just needs to connect.
It just
Okay.
needs- yeah.
That's something.
Because those are just side yards where typically the driveways won't be on the side yard, so you won't have interruptions with the path.
Coming down Orchard Hills, it's on the west side, which would connect to, which if you don't, at some point in time, you're gonna have to cross the street to get to the, over the park. Do you do it at the, at Orchard Hills, or do you do it at the park or whatever?
Well, it would make sense to do it at a point where there will be a future 4-way stop sign.
Which is
which
probably
seems
at
on
Orchard Hills.
Right,
Okay,
so we can put an adequate crosswalk. So, right.
okay, so I have heard 4 things. Okay.
Really?
So, number 1 is make sure that the parkland dedication is sufficient.
Right.
Number 2 is that there is area for a trail, that the area for the trail is reserved and connected through the development. That they'll work with Park and Rec to modify Outlot Z, which is the park. And then the council approves the grading plan.
In the trees, because he talked about a warranty, and it's not gonna be a year, it's gonna be more like 5.
And tree.
Because 1 year is not gonna be sufficient.
In the fence, was that, so that's just,
Okay. Yeah, fence is out of it, thank you, but, okay, so. So the 5-year tree warning would be this would be the 5th item. Does everybody think that that is?
It's a little excessive.
If they took out 40-year-old trees and are putting them in with a tree that might die in 2 years, I'm saying that they probably owe us more than 10 trees, and I'm okay with 10 trees if they give us the 5 year.
I mean, it's 1 year is what we've used it previously, but I think
That's what I think nurseries will give you, is 1 year.
And I'm saying this is on the developer for taking down trees. And they may think it's excessive, and you may think it's excessive, but they came onto our property, took down our property, and are replacing it with something that's not the same as what we have.
5 additional votes here.
So,
it'll probably take 5 years to build this whole thing out, so you're always gonna have a little bit of
Watch this.
power there, so if there's a problem with the trees.
I'm gonna do a 5. What do you think? Separate vote for each one. Okay, so
No,
What you do on-
I would make my motion to incorporate each of those 5 things all in one vote.
okay, so
Not an individual amendment. You want one amendment, including all 5.
I don't want to vote 5 times. I don't see the point.
okay,
I think the 5 years is a little excessive.
3, let's compromise 3.
Spring, so they,
3 is
that
fine.
gives you the
Okay.
sleep creep.
So my motion,
Okay, so- can I word it?
please,
Okay, so can I get a motion?
my motion.
So can I get a motion to amend the resolution to add wording about parkland dedication is sufficient? There is area for trail, for a trail that is reserved and connected through the development, that the developer works with Park and Rec to modify Outlot Z, that council approves the grading plan, and that there is a 3-year tree warranty.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Livingston, second by Baker. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker, Rima,
Yes.
Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester.
No. Okay, so the motion carries. So now, would somebody like to make a motion on the amended resolution?
I thought we just did
We
that.
did not.
You amended the resolution.
Oh, I
Now you're going to
move-
pass the
I move
resolution
to
as
pass the
amended.
resolution
As
as
amended.
amended. Second.
Okay, so motion by Livingston, second by Reva to pass the resolution as amended. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
No.
Baker,
Yes.
Reva, Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right.
Thank
Motion carries. Yeah, thank you, Brad.
Good 18 months, huh?
I forgot how much fun this was.
All right. Item C is a resolution approving the name of parkland dedication to, or name of part of the parkland dedicated to the city within Timberview and Blooming Heights 2 developments. So this item is to name the combined Blooming Heights and Timberview Park to Pine Needle Park. Robin, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Any discussion or questions from council?
Are there actually pine trees there?
There are, I shouldn't say that. There are a few trees between the two properties. But if you're actually in the middle of each park, or any new park that we receive, there are none.
We should plant some pine trees there.
Okay, I think that's a great idea. I'll take
Good, call it Pine Needle Park. you think?
Can I ask a question? Do you know what the time frame is for developing that park?
Today, my answer to you is that it is approved for CIP fiscal year 24. Tomorrow, that may be a different answer. Today, my answer is that.
All right.
Well said.
Thank you.
Any other
I
discussion?
think I've answered that question a few times.
Motion.
Got a motion by Livingston, second by Reva. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Reva,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item D is resolution approving the purchase of a 2021 Ford ambulance equipped with a cardiac monitor for the fire department. So this resolution is for a purchase in our fiscal year 2022 CIP. So council has already approved the purchase. However, fire department would like to add a cardiac monitor to the purchase at an additional expense of $30,000. Captain Porter and Jean, I'll let you guys take it from here.
So this was already a budgeted approved item with the CIP, like we said. We do plan to reallocate the majority of our equipment from the one ambulance to the new ambulance, but we did identify that the cardiac monitor was outdated and it is needing to be replaced. So it made most sense to do it at the same time here.
Yeah. Your other ones are getting close.
And the other ones are getting close, yeah. So we plan to look at replacing one the following year and then add it with the next ambulance the next time to kind of get us back on track to keep everything within the 10-year span.
Cool. So we're adding an ambulance. We're not replacing one, correct?
We are replacing one. We have 3 ambulances now, so we'll take our reserve out. This is everything will just filter down, so.
I know that we were running out for an issue or something.
We've
Yeah,
been,
we're down to
we've
two.
been having some mechanical issues here recently that we're still
The
currently
ambulance
having.
we're replacing has been around for a while now.
It has, it's an 08, I believe.
Yeah.
That's the one that we're replacing currently. Yeah.
And we're able to fund this how?
We had 300,000 in the budget this year lost. And we would use the additional, we would obtain the additional 30,000 with lost reserves. We ended up getting quite a bit more than we budgeted and lost, even what we re-estimated. We had a little bit more due to online sales. So The good news too is the fire truck that they, if you approve, came in under
Okay.
by more than the 30,000. So even though there are two different funding mechanisms, I feel like that's offsetting somewhat, but reserves. lost.
Mayor, I don't even have a 2008 computer that works anymore. So I had to think about cardiac unit that, you know what I'm saying?
Well, if I need it, I would like to be able to.
I'd like it to work.
That age, we need to know
Any
what
other
in there.
discussion from council? All right, public comment? You want hooked up, don't you, if you need it?
Ford cheaper than a shipping?
Uh-oh, here we go. Uh-oh. I'm just gonna let that go. Any
Yeah,
public
spend more
comment?
time in the garage.
Yeah, I got a motion on the
Second.
table. Okay, so motion by Reba, second by Livingston. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston. Yes. Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item E is a resolution approving the contractual agreement with Reliant Fire Apparatus for the build and purchase of a Pierce fire truck. So this is another item in the fiscal year 2022 CIP. Fire department would like to get this ordered prior to August 1st to avoid a material surcharge the vendor's going to start doing August 1st, right?
Correct, yeah.
Anything else?
I just wanted to say that, as Jean mentioned, that we are coming in under budget at this right now. And that is due to our staff doing some really nice work on this project with cutting out some of the things that they felt wasn't necessary, that we could lower the cost. So I did want to kind of give props to our staff for what they've done with this project.
All right, great. Any questions?
Those fire guys get all the nice stuff out there.
Yeah, they do.
All right. I got a motion by Livingston, second by Lester. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, motion carries. There's no competition there.
Zero.
All right, item F is a resolution approving the conversion of regular part-time position to full-time for the fire department. So regular part-time employee has resigned and we're in the process of filling that position. Captain Porter looked at the position and believes changing it to full-time is going to be a good direction to take. I would also think this would be more attractive and we'd get more candidates for the job.
Yeah, I mean, that's a primarily driving factor, is that just getting part-time employees right now is difficult in our industry. Everybody's working full-time jobs already in the metro and part-time jobs on top of that. And it's just more enticing to get somebody down here as a full-time employee, especially with the costs that we're looking at. That 3/4 time was originally offered benefits anyways, even though that they were declined. If we refill it just as a regular part-time person, it's likely that that next person would take those benefits. So we really just looked at the difference between what it would cost as a regular part-time employee versus full-time, and it just made more sense to take that direction.
Had a chance you can hold on to them probably.
Yeah, exactly. It's better for retention too.
Point, any discussion from council?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Cool, second by Livingston. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item G is the third reading of an ordinance amending chapter 177 rates and fees of the Norwalk Municipal Code regarding peddlers, solicitors, and transient merchants. So this is the third and final reading to correct an error made back in 2013. Lindsay, you got anything else?
I don't, thanks.
All right. Any discussion or question from council? Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Lester, second by Reba. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item H, Norwalk Central Courts Commons Building Finance Options. So at our last meeting, council decided that the city's going to own the building where the courts and the commons is going to be located for the sports complex. And now we get to choose how this is going to be funded. So at the last meeting, I stated that while this is a park and rec facility, our primary purchase for the project is to fill the commercial spaces around it. This is going to be a destination location, creating a good amount of traffic to the area, and I think that's going to bring in commercial development pretty well. So I believe council should treat this as an economic development project. The project will be a significant step for the city to move away from using school district space, which is becoming more and more precious to them to provide their own programming, which I completely understand. So my opinion is we should treat this as a reverse referendum as far as financing go. Holly and Jean?
I would just add that there's some significant dates in here, depending on the option you choose. Just keep those in mind. As far as the public vote, we would need the language to the county auditor's office by September 17th. If you want the reverse referendum process, there's a public hearing, and then a 10-day window prior to that public hearing, that a petition would have to be submitted. A vote would not be held probably till March of 2022. And then if you did option number 3, there just would need to be a public hearing and a public notice published.
Okay.
Just those 3
All right.
notes.
What do you guys think?
I got a question. How come we're not doing number 3, Mayor?
The TIF revenue
Revenue
debt?
debt.
Doesn't that limit
I think,
how we can fund it, right? I mean, if we do 2, we have potentially more funding options.
yes, I think that is true. I think that it gives us more options to do it that way.
More options
TIF will encumber, using the TIF debt will encumber that much debt from TIF. Where if we have another project come in, we may want to use some TIF funds to go to that other project. But if we do that, if we do number 3, we might not be able to do that. Those funds may be encumbered.
Because it'd be committed. Not
Yeah.
available.
I get that right? Yeah, I mean, just another thing with just the TIF debt, the only, I think we're gonna use TIF to pay this back either way. We just, when we go out to the bondholders for interest rates, we can leverage our debt service behind that. So probably get a better rate, and over, with this amount of money and over extended time period, it could be $500,000 or more, so.
Mayor, yes, sir. Another thing about that number 3, I just think about some of the conversations that I've heard from elected officials, and I know that it's a struggle when you have the opportunity to let your citizens come in and make that full decision. There's some appeal to that. At the same time, you're all well aware of the need to move forward, and that vote is just potentially a delay, and there's an educational component. One of the downsides about the TIF revenue debt is it does not give your citizens any ability really to come in and file that for that reverse referendum. So it's something else that the number 2 option, at least you're giving that some level of opportunity for the citizens to bring up that concern.
Yeah, I guess I understand what they're saying. The reason I ask is, in my mind, if we did the TIF, it would move the debt, and it would move the tax needle. And so that's the reason why there wouldn't be an election. But it makes sense, the money we could save overall, and the fact that it would move along smoother.
Well, I think still the majority of the payback for the GEO bonds will come out of TIF.
We plan on all of it too.
So,
Okay, so even though it seems like it'll move the tax needle, it won't really. That's our plan.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, the plan is to not move the tax.
we don't want to move the tax. Right.
Okay, all right.
Yes, it's down.
Probably good, Mayor. You probably got me. You probably got me now.
Yes. We do want to move the tax needle down. The commercial development that comes in here might help us do that. What else do people think? For questions?
So I like number 2, but at the same time, I worry that if we get the signatures, that bumps it out to next spring. And that's the part that concerns me of, do we want to speed it up and do it in November? I don't know. That's where I'm at. If that makes any sense whatsoever.
I think it just becomes incumbent on us to sell it, to really educate. And I mean, I don't disagree with what you're saying, David, but I think that we just have to work
I think
really
that
hard to sell it.
the challenge will be for us to get the message out, just like the mayor just did with me. And it's not gonna move the tax needle because they're gonna use TIF to pay for it, basically, right?
But we're trying to make a smart decision with it because that provides lower interest rates because.
That's right, so we
because
can
of the way it
save
goes.
money,
Right.
which is what she just said.
I
So
think
it's
we
kind
need
of,
to, I think we need to count on the Norwalk citizenry to do the right
To
thing.
not bring the referendum, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Do the right thing.
And
They trust us, we trust them.
I mean, we need to inform them though.
Yes.
we do need to inform them, yes.
But then I'm good with
Some,
it.
you city people that write stuff, we're gonna just have to write a really good notice.
Yeah.
And mayor's moments and.
Yep.
All that.
That mayor's a pretty good writer.
And on the Park and
I have a
Rec
good editor.
website. Yeah.
I have a good editor. All right. So,
I would like to direct staff to pursue the reverse referendum, and at the same time, is it implied in there that we start immediately by amending our urban renewal area so that we can get that done so we can do the reverse
Yes.
referendum?
yes.
'Cause
So
we
can you
can't
make
do
that-
any of
Can you make that in the form of a motion?
I move that staff pursue the reverse referendum option, and at the same time,
And all necessary.
and all necessary
And then responsibilities.
proceedings that need to
I
go
like
with
that.
that.
Perfect.
I second.
Okay. So motion by Reva, second by Livingston. Did you get all that, Lindsay?
Did.
Or you can listen to the tape later. Would you call roll, please?
Councilmember Riva,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
I'm gonna say no.
Baker.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Item blah, blah, blah. Item 8, council inquiries and staff updates.
Just have a few items. Taxpayer talks, I think I mentioned that to you, where we're gonna do more of a one-on-one recording. It's something we're gonna post on YouTube if people decide it's entertaining enough to watch. And the first topic is going to be on water rates. And I have an individual that's ready to ask some tough questions. So next week, Shelby's gonna record that with myself and one of our residents, and that'll get posted. Our hope is to condense it down to just a 5-minute discussion. This citizen came in the other day and we talked for an hour about it, so that should be entertaining to see how we get that reduced down. Also, just to give you a heads up that the mayor and I continue to have discussions with Cumming about the annexation moratorium. Councilmember Lester hit me up today about the value of maybe a couple of elected officials meeting with a couple of elected officials from Cumming, maybe in a joint meeting. I informed him that the mayor had just requested that same thing earlier this week. So just know that we're continuing to work with them and try to come to some kind of resolution that works for both communities. Luke Paris is not here. You already heard that he's at the Fellowship Church talking about comp planning. Some notices went out at the Front Porch Norwalk where they handed out inviting people to continue to be involved in that process. So it's neat to see that continuing to move forward. And then just today, I was involved, New Life Lutheran Church, and invited me and 3 other people. It was a Zoom conversation, but just a topic talking about various issues within the city, and that was good to be a part of. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Brian?
Just a quick update on having Highway 565 designated as an interstate. The DOT required taking control of that process of forming a task force. And they have now decided, Director Marler has decided to disband that task force and instead move forward with one-on-one conversations with key stakeholders, which is what didn't work in the first place, because that's why they formed the task force. So hopefully, we will get some kind of movement on this. I asked that the NPO director, Todd Ashby, request that we get, that the DOT is going to write a white paper, and I asked that that white paper be written and delivered no later than October 1st, so that if we had to pursue some type of legislative options, that gives us enough time before the 2022 session starts to get our act together.
Thank you. Lindsay.
Nothing, thank you.
Right, Robin.
Well, first, thank you very much for the recognition and the award tonight. That was very nice. I just wanted to let people know that phase 2 of Great Western Trail, those bids will be in on July 20th. It's a federal grant, so we're on a federal timeline. That's nothing that we put out to bid. That is all controlled by federal hands. So we will be coming forward with the rest of that though when those bids are opened, and I'll let you know on that. That's NPO money, is grant money is going to be part of that one. July 22nd, I want to invite you all to, we have 2 ribbon cutting ceremonies. One will be at Elizabeth Holland Park. Just finally, after COVID's over, we can get people together and say, hey, it's finally open. It's been open, but just a celebration, say the trail and the park are open. That's going to start at 6:30. Prior to that ribbon cutting ceremony, we are going to do a 1 mile fun run or a walk. It's a color run. So if you're interested in that, it's a family event and you can register on our website. That's going to start at 6. At the same time, over at Windflower Park with our new pickleball courts, we're going to do a pickleball exhibition. And so if you have a doubles team that you want to register, is actually, we're not charging a fee for that. We're going to accept up to 8 teams, and we'll just have an exhibition over there on the new courts. And then at 7:30, we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony for the new pickleball courts. So that is all on July 22nd. The pedestrian bridge along 50th for the Great Western Trail is set, and I don't know if you've driven out there, but it looks pretty cool. We actually had the Des Moines Register, a reporter from Indianola ran an article, I think it was today. I think that was in the paper today. It was part of it. It wasn't just on our trail, but it was part of the bigger Warren County topic. But that bridge is set. And then tomorrow, just a reminder that from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., 50th Avenue between Beardsley and County Line Road will need to be shut down to through traffic because they need to pour concrete on the bridge, and then the sections just north and south of that. Residents, though, that live in that area will have full access to their houses.
What time are you shutting it down?
6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then just to let you know that last week we planted 54 trees within our parks. So we're going to continue to do that. But yeah, it was kind of a fun time. And that's all I have.
So just to keep aware, there was some ponding on the trail along 50th. You know, you go from Beardsley, you go up, kind of go up, and then there's towards the top, it goes down and then it goes up again. In that area, there was some ponding on the trail and it lasted quite a while. I thought.
On 50th?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just wanted, we need to make sure that the trail drains adequately.
Yeah, it should be. It
That's
should
an
be
issue.
graded, correct.
I saw that along Beardsley.
On Beardsley, I didn't see it over the trail. I saw it next to the trail. But there was a significant pond next to the trail as well
Yeah,
on
I
Beardsley.
did see that as well. When did
Hopefully
you
they
see
have
the,
some grading to do along the edges to take care of that, hopefully.
when did you see the ponding? Was that today?
I saw it Sunday
Sunday.
morning.
Okay.
Oh, let's see, we went to church at 8:30 or so. When we came back at 1, it was still on the trail, so, and it hadn't rained.
Right. Okay, sounds good. I'll take a look and let our engineer know.
All right, thank you. Gene Strable.
Good evening. Just a couple things. The library did join in as a host of Front Porch Norwalk last night, and we had 64 people come, which was really nice. They weren't all there at once. That would have been quite overwhelming, but it was come and go. And we did partner up with planning and zoning. And so Luke Paris brought over one of the big maps, and he and Elliot went out in the community and visited some of the other Front Porch Norwalks, and I kind of ran the table and got people to get interested in contributing their ideas and thoughts about the 2040 plan. So it was pretty nice. And we are kind of pleased because we have just a fun thing. Our adult services librarian, Kayla Becker, is the cover girl for Norwalk Living this month. It's the book club issue, and she runs one book club for the library and is thinking of doing 1 or 2 more. So she became the cover and is representing the library very well, as well as the city. And you'll see it reflected in next month's report to the council. But we were really very pleasantly surprised because as we were going through our June statistics, we discovered that things are bouncing back very well, and our checkouts at the library and our programming numbers are just barely exceeding the numbers that we had in June of 2019. So that's awesome because our door counts aren't close yet. So the people who are coming are doing all of the things, and it's really great and very rewarding. So we're very happy and eager to do some more.
Good.
Okay,
Good.
thanks.
Holly.
Well, we're not gonna sleep tonight, so we've got some work to do really quickly. I'm assuming Luke and Gene and I will be on the phone with bond counsel first thing in the morning to get this process moving to meet all those critical dates. But thank you for making that decision. Now we can really, I think, just hit the ground running, and we can start working with Novo on the engineering designs and getting things put together a little bit more quickly now. We are meeting with the developers for the private side of the sports campus project tomorrow also, so we'll be able to start working through their development agreement a little bit quicker as well. And on the Kosovo trip, so we do have 4 of us designated right now to go. But I think there's about 3 of us that there's a slight chance something could happen where we don't go. I think there's a couple of maybe dates and things like that that might conflict. I'm having some passport issues. So we're really hoping it all comes together with the 4 that we have designated right now. But maybe just keep in mind if we want to have a person or 2 that's kind of considered an alternate. I don't know if anybody else is interested in going. I think it serves us very well to have a strong delegation there because of all the projects that we're working on and getting back into this year with Kosovo and a whole new government there. So maybe just keep that in mind if anybody has a slight interest in maybe being a backup person. God forbid one of us can't make it. Kirk, you might be the only one for sure.
No pressure.
You guys all saw probably last week that we put out the announcement for the Bellflower Floral Shop, Florist. That's your daughter, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so it's a really beautiful store. They'll be opening soon. They're doing the interior build out now, and so that's exciting. She's opening in August. Other than that, the cobblestone project's still moving forward, just slow as always with the DOT and right-of-way situations that have to happen, but they're staying in there. So other than that, yeah, we'll just get to work really fast on this.
Yeah, I know a lot more about business now than I did a few months ago.
Is Northern Lights on schedule?
Yes, so they're still, he called me last week and had some questions for the planning department for their interior build out, so I sent them over there, so we're still doing well.
Gene Kelly.
Last meeting, there was a question about the Y area and Indianola and how many acres that sat on. So I looked it up because I was very curious and I was surprised. It's only 43 acres in that whole area with that $51 million value. And that includes the Y, which is 6 acres. So kind of can tell you what can be done in a small area. I would have guessed over 100 acres easily. So just wanted to give you an update there. Annual debt report is online and submitted. If you want to look at it, it's on our website as well. that does not take council approval. We just submit it to the state, but we do put it on the website if you want to take a look. Working on the street finance report and the annual finance report. And we got the Holland Farms TIF all squared away with the county. They had our frozen base value very high, which we knew was not correct because from 2011, the values could not be that high. So they worked really hard and changed those. Very happy about that. We worked together and it worked out. So.
All right, thanks. Major West.
Made it through the 4th of July successfully, I think. The parade and the fireworks went off fairly well. I'd like to shout out to Public Works for all their help with barricades and no parking signs. That is an immense help, and all the other departments that helped along the way. We appreciate it. Participated in the Front Porch Norwalk last night. We had about 11 officers go around to 18 to 19 houses. Helped with the comprehensive plan update flyer that planning and zoning had. We were handing out, the officers were handing that out to residents to get their input on the comprehensive plan. We got a new police car coming in finally on Tuesday with the equipment. Have to do some tweaking before we get it ready for the road, but that's a welcome relief after waiting and waiting and waiting on cars. And equipment. The downside is the other car that is there, we're a month behind on that one because we're waiting on parts. Hopefully things will catch back up and move along there. I'm losing. I forgot what I was going to say, but I think that's all I got.
All right.
And I heard Art before the meeting say he expects to see the new police cars when they're in town. So
We'll make sure
pull up behind him, turn the
we'll
lights on.
pull up behind him so you can see it. And depending on how he acts, maybe I'm going to see the back seat of the car.
Yeah, let's take off the back seat.
All right, Captain Porter.
I'd like to thank council for the approval of the items that we had tonight. I know we had several big items and they mean a lot to myself and to our staff. And thanks to Luke, Jean, and Lindsay for helping those agenda statements. I appreciate it. So I'm kind of learning as we go here. We took part in 4th of July stuff too. This year was the first time that we had assisted the Lions Club, and we kind of took a behind the scenes tour of what those fireworks look like. They were fairly impressive. And then we did some fire standby for them too, in case they needed us, we were there. Last night we had bus extrication training. Councilmember Cool stopped by to check that out. He left right before we got the big tools out, so I apologize for that. But we did also send a few members out for Front Porch Norwalk. Not as didn't hit as many houses because they wanted to take part in the training as well. And last thing is we do have boat training this Saturday at Lake Colchester. Notifications have been made to the residents. It's set to start at 8 o'clock, and we're doing that in cooperation with the Lake Ridge Village Association. They're going to be on site with us as well, but that should conclude around noon. Go ahead.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Wayne.
Nothing tonight.
All right, Tony.
Nothing here, Mayor.
Yep. Got anything?
Nothing here, Mayor.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Ed.
There's a couple things. I enjoyed the bus extrication and learned a lot about buses I did not know.
Same.
Good old bus number 13, that's a big one. Like a lot of you council members probably, I received a lot of emails and various phone calls in regards to fireworks. So I look forward to the opportunity to review it because I know we plan to do that.
Mhm.
And I think as a part of that review, the police department also does an accounting for contacts they made or that sort of thing. And I've explained to the people that I talk to that they're certainly welcome to attend that meeting and also or watch the meeting, you know, if they want to on YouTube to find what the results are and the considerations are. But what the lady expressed here tonight was kind of echoed by quite a few people. So it's something to think about. I don't know quite how you orchestrate common sense and law, but you know, that'd be really nice if there's a way to do it. Other than that, those are my comments.
All right, thank you. Jackie.
So kind of piggybacking off of Ed, while it's nice that people feel like they can share with us their complaints and frustrations about fireworks, when nobody calls the police on the people who are violating the law, there's not a lot we can do. So for anybody who's listening now and anybody who knows somebody who has a complaint, when you see somebody violating the law, call the police so the police can do something about it. Because anecdotally and after the fact, we have much less power.
That is true. And people also need to start, okay, so a police officer has to see the ignition. Yes, they do.
No.
No?
No, it's a
No, we
nuisance
changed
now.
it.
So it's the property
Well,
owner.
For
Yeah,
the nuisance.
They gotta identify the location.
If they want, well, that's for the nuisance. If you want to issue a certain individual a ticket,
Right.
they have to see.
For instance, the people shooting off the fireworks in the public street, like the lady spoke about earlier, which is illegal.
Yes.
Right. She
And
called
they
the
don't
police.
have
The
to
police
see
could
them.
have been there.
Police don't have to see them. They have to have a witness who's willing to testify.
Or they have to have a witness that's willing to testify to that. And a lot of times they don't, those witnesses don't want to testify to
Yeah,
it.
that'd be for an illegal discharge.
Yes. I'll get to mine as far as fireworks here. in a
Can I
minute.
comment on that real quick too?
Yeah.
Preliminary, what we're seeing is there's 48 complaints this year that were called in. And some of those were self-initiated by the officers. And of the 48 complaints, I think there was almost half of them were before the 10 o'clock hour. So we'll dig into it a lot deeper, obviously, and there was some self-initiated activities where officers were going and making contacts. We did issue, I know we issued one, but I had to look and see if we had more, so.
Okay. Hopefully you have more.
Yeah. And I think at the end of this, there's gonna be, we need to come up with a streamlined way of issuing that citation as far as maybe putting some teeth in it.
Yep.
As far as the fine, because right now they have to go to court, where we may want to research of having it as a fine that okay, first offense, you're this, second offense, you're this, and it gets increasingly higher, but you don't want the first offense to be a $50 fine, because some people say, I'll pay $50 because they're spending.
I would echo that.
Yeah. So there's things that we can look at, that's part of this process that we're going to be presenting to the council, so.
I think state law says minimum fine for ignition is $250. So then we could go up from there. David.
So good, me.
I wrote fireworks down that I want to just give my 2 cents on them, that I'm in the world of shortening the days. I think I was the last time too, and we settled on 10 and I was okay with 10. I didn't like it, but I was okay with it. And I'm down to 3. I think 3 is the magic number, 3rd, 4th, 5th, personally. So I just want to get that out there now. As far as my biggest issue, I wrote a big long thing on this and then I didn't bring it with me. You would have been here for 20 minutes listening to me read it, because I was irritated. I'm irritated with this because the debris was awful from people in the streets, in the parks, and I was going up, in case you all wanted to know, since it's not there any longer, I had one 3-inch shell that didn't go off this year on the fireworks, and it was sitting up in a bucket in the park around all those tubes. So I had to go check on it every hour to make sure it was still there. And there were 2 young gentlemen and 2 young ladies that were in the park shooting fireworks off every time I kept driving up there. And so I was driving in your park constantly on the 5th. So you knew that. So that's not. But, so just a heads up that it's irritating to me that we can't give people the common courtesy clean. My whole thing was on the 12 points of scout law, because I felt like the fireworks, if people would live by that, then we wouldn't have this issue and it would just be fine.
That is true.
Sorry, that's I said I had a 20-minute thing written up and I didn't bring it. You're probably glad I did.
Well, maybe next time.
A good
No, you
attorney,
don't want it next time.
a good attorney would give us the ability to legislation common sense.
Well, yeah, you can't legislate common sense.
No.
Yeah.
Nothing further. I'm just glad I'm not having to make the decision on the fireworks, because that's not an easy one. That's a no-win situation
No,
there for your
right.
council members, and you guys are gonna be earning your money making that decision.
Well, and the fact that citizens were closing down roads, I was hearing about this, they were closing down their block under an agreement, but without block, they were doing a block party without doing block party permits. And they were shooting fireworks in the middle of the road, and they would park their vehicles at the top to block it so that nobody could come down.
Right.
Just a heads up, I did hear about that. That was on the 4th. That was happening. But that was happening, and again, I don't know, you guys just were busy on the 4th when it was happening, so.
But it was.
On the 4th, it's a dog chasing its tail. You're
Yeah.
going call to call to call to call to call, and you're trying to get the traffic out of town, plus manage the fireworks. You know, it's a struggle. Every town is gonna have this. As far as if you have your own fireworks celebration and you allow the fireworks, it's how do you balance the load, right? So we're aware of it, and we're looking at some different ways to maybe make some improvements and streamline the process. So we can get the citation issued quicker to get to the next one, get to the next one, get to the next one. So.
Just a couple things. I did challenge Chief Staples, and they did write, and Officer Holler wrote a ticket, I think on July the 4th. I think he even warned them at like 10:10.
It was 10:05. He said, hey.
Nope.
You're done. Okay. Drove down the street. 10 minutes later, there goes off. I said, I told you were done.
No.
I thought I had till 11. No.
Nope.
Apparently he's been talking to Brian.
We changed that last year to 10 o'clock.
I think the officer even handed him a copy of the ordinance.
Yes,
You're thinking.
And he still did it. So
New Year's.
like you say, you cannot legislate common sense.
So the challenge next year will be to start issuing nuisance complaints between the dates of the start of the sale to whatever date we choose.
Yeah, I think that's a key point, and increase in that fine.
Yep. Agreed.
Then we need to take a look at how many days, like David says. I mean, I don't know if I'm willing to cut down to 3, but we should discuss it.
Yeah. Right. And then as I've been driving around and I've noticed more and more, unfortunately, the emerald ash borer, the results of that have really shown this year, more so than what I've seen before. I know that city staff's in the process of creating some communication about that, as far as a dead tree can become a nuisance. And so you need to start planning right now to get rid of your dead trees. Otherwise, because you don't want the city to come in and do it for you. So.
This also becomes a nuisance.
Which it does, yes. And then, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to tell this story. Last night at Front Porch Norwalk, Chief Staples and I were driving around, and there was a call of a Kia Sorrento called in and said that there was road rage from some guy in a white truck. And I looked at Chief and I said, okay, of all nights, we got at least four police cars out, which we only normally have 2. So we had more officers on duty on Wednesday night than any other night. And that's the night that this guy chooses to do it. I just found it ironic.
Like I said, you cannot legislate common sense.
That's exactly right. All right. That's all I had. So item 9 is a closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 2151J to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price for the governmental body would have to pay for that property. Jim, is this valid reason to go into closed session?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so can I get a motion to move into closed session?
Motion.
Okay, I got a motion by Cool, second by Reva. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
All right, we are going to move into closed session. We'll take a few minutes to get everybody out and
Get a glass of water.
we wait.
Yeah. I just had to bring up Cheryl.
Yeah.
I didn't choose.
Yeah, this happens to Hoover, they're going to be in this call.
What do you do?
Try some muscle.
Scroll to make sure we're not public.
Me too.
See, so I don't think it came off automatically, you know?
That's okay. Have a good night.
No,
Actually, it's its own code.
I had a discussion with them about.
Its own code, I think.
Like I said, I'm here, 90,000.
Yeah.
Where you're at.
No, it was a gal. Is getting remarried, I think. And, or they moved into a different house. That house has been empty for